tell you about that voice, though. That voice, if you ever read a book that's authored by Daniel Charnas, if you will, a.k.a. Dan Charnas, you could rest assured that any line, any word that was written in that book was meticulously observed, put under a microscope, vetted, researched again, triple checked, and made sure that it was factual. Dan doesn't just write books, HB, he writes Bibles. And so when I found out that he was going to be writing this book about j.dilla, it's called Dilla Time, The Life and Afterlife of j.dilla, the hip-hop producer who reinvented rhythm, I knew that as well as I knew Slum Village and j.dilla's history, that I was going to learn so much more. You know, I'll tell you a quick story. j.dilla is, I want to say Questlove said, he's the musician. You know, j.dilla in many cases is he's revered and loved by people who never even got a chance to meet him. A lot of posthumous music by j.dilla has become classic because people just wanted to have an opportunity to touch and feel and be in his vibe, even though he's no longer with us in the physical. I got a chance to meet him in the physical a couple of times, but really when we were doing the world famous Wake Up Show, we played j.dilla produced music all the time. It was j.dilla produced music that helped shape and mold the very core and the sound of what we call the Wake Up Show. And I say in 2005, first time I ever traveled to Europe with my brother Sway Calloway and Rich Nice. We traveled to the Netherlands. We had no idea what was going on. It was just a place we picked out on the map, and we decided to land. We just went. We never been to Europe, and I told my brother, I'm getting you a ticket, and I bought him the ticket so he couldn't say no. And we went out there, and we landed, and we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't have any friends there, and lo and behold, we're walking the streets of Amsterdam, and we see somebody walking across the street, and it's Kid Capri walking by himself in Amsterdam. We like, kid, what are you doing here? It blew our mind. That was like the first day we were there, and we knew then we were in a special place. We went to a club, had no idea who was going to be there, walked in this club, and we saw the crew, Frank and Dank, on stage performing. I'm like, Frank and Dank are here? What's going on? I believe it was DJ Redmatic on the turntables, if I'm not mistaken. And they invited us on stage. My brother T. Calloway kicked the verse. Rich Nice kicked the verse. And then they said, j.dilla is in the back, Sway, and he want to see you. I said, Dilla's here? All the times we scheduled them to come to the Wake Up Show, he couldn't make it. So many times, and they said it was because of his illness, that we thought, man, is j.dilla dissing us? You know, we couldn't understand why he could never make the show. And I remember going back there and meeting him in person for the first time. And this is in 2005. And the first thing we did, he reached out to me, we hugged, and Dilla started crying. Before he said any words to me, he started crying. I started crying. We were hugging and crying in the back of a club in Amsterdam because that was the first time we physically got a chance to see each other and say thank you. He thanked us for all that we did, all the music we played. He was in a wheelchair at that time. I didn't realize that it was that serious. And I thanked him for all the music he orchestrated and through his music help us dream bigger. You know, that's the type of guy that man was. And soon after that, just a few months after that, is when he made his untimely transition. I knew that meeting was just real divine intervention. It was so random that God placed us in that point of the world, that place on the map that we ended up choosing. I was there to meet j.dilla. So when my good friend Dan Charnas took on the task to immortalize this man even more and tell his true story, I knew it was going to be done well. And so I've been enjoying this book. I've been enjoying this trip down memory lane. I've been enjoying this trip right now in the present and in the future, and knowing how much he influenced a lot of these newer artists, whether it's Kendrick Lamar or Robert Glasper, who's a good friend of ours as well. Both are citizens of Sway in the Morning. I knew this was going to be a gem. So I'm calling on all hip-hop heads, all hip-hop fans. We claim we love it. If you love this culture, I want you to call up. Even if you don't know who j.dilla is, you know his work. You may not realize it. Call us up 888-742-3345. We got the one and only Dan Charnas is here with us today. And rise and shine.
My goodness.
Rise and shine.
Awesome. That was it was incredible story, Sway. I was almost
Bro.
in tears listening to you. And I know what you're talking about, that final tour that he took in November, December of 2005, just a few months before he passed. Just, woo.
Oof,
Wow.
bro. I didn't know it was a final. I didn't know he was going to even be there, bro.
Yeah.
I didn't know he was going to be there, man. And I told his mom and his brother once, I got to hug that man. And when I hugged, man,
Yeah.
you know, j.dilla,
Yeah.
man, j.dilla. Round of applause, man. Why, when did you decide you wanted to take on this task? This is an important book. When?
Well, you know, it goes back to my own time in the music business, you know, when I used to come on the wake up show sometimes, you know, and when I worked for Rick Rubin at American Recordings. I had an artist who I worked with, an incredible MC, heroic MC by the name of Chino XL. And, you know, we were working on his second album and we finally had a budget to work with the best. And I said, let's go to Detroit. Let's work with this kid JD. It's 1999, right? So there's Slum Village isn't, you know, the album isn't out. You know, he's still with the Uma, right? But he's done these incredible songs like Sometimes remix for Brand New Heavies. And people are whispering, oh, he really did that Janet Jackson song. So we flew to Detroit. We drove out to Conant Gardens where he lives, to his house, to the basement, knock on the white door, walk in. There's Ma Dukes up in the kitchen. We go down the stairs, and there's Common Sense. What's Common Sense doing down here? I couldn't figure out. I hadn't even made the switch to Common yet. Yeah. Like that's how, you know. And he was there working on Like Water for Chocolate, and we had no idea. So, you know, we're just hanging out in the basement. We go to Mongolian barbecue, which was one of James' favorite things. And what am I doing, Sway? I'm talking. You know, me and Chino, when we get together, we're just always a little comedy act, right? So we're talking about how we got kicked out of Canada the previous night. Nice little story. And James is just listening, nodding, listening. And I'm just talking. I was so unaware that I was in the presence of like a Coltrane or Miles type figure that I left my damn camera at the hotel, Sway. Oh. I was at Mongolian barbecue with Common and JD and Chino, and what did I take pictures of? Us at the Motown Museum.
Wow.
You know, I just wasn't even right. I was a talent executive. I wasn't thinking I was a journalist at that point. And we made the 2 songs. We flew back to LA, and then about 6 months later, we're mixing the record. And I'm listening to you know, when you mix stuff, you listen to it over and over and over again, right? And I'm like, wait a minute, are those drums off? Something's wrong with them drums. And that began the journey to this book. Like, oh, I didn't realize what he was doing was actually a revolution in rhythm that you would begin to hear on the work of Music Soul Child and Talib Kweli and High Tech and Jill Scott and then Michael Jackson soon, and you know, as you said, Robert Glasper, Kendrick Lamar. So the journey began with that trip in '99 to Detroit.
Wow. HB.
Yeah, Dan. Hi, how you doing? Thank you for
joining
us today. Hello.
I missed you.
I miss you too. Thank you for joining us. Do you, and if you could be transparent with this, do you fight with yourself, or did you fight with yourself in approaching this, saying, can I take this on? Like, why me? Why do I feel so compelled to do this? This is a hip hop producer god, pillar, icon. I don't want people coming at me. Am I touching on the right thing? Should I be the one doing this? Like, I think a lot of artists fight like that. They don't always talk about it, but I think if you're a true artist, it can get in your head sometimes. Did you experience that at all?
Oh man, Heather, thanks for asking that question, because it really is true. And frankly, it didn't start as the big biography of JD. It started as I was teaching a class at NYU on j.dilla to 20 students. And I just realized there wasn't enough good, accurate stuff for them to read about his musical
Oh,
achievement. I felt like nobody had really put their finger on what it was that JD did that was so revolutionary. Everybody's always like, why JD? I don't understand. Why is everybody so crazy about Dilla? Primo's better than him. Timbo's better than him. My downstairs neighbor is Operator M's, who you know from back in the day.
Formerly
And
known
I
as
said,
King M's.
that's right. So, I see M's in the hallway and he's like, what you doing? I'm like, well, I'm writing a book on j.dilla. And he goes, I don't get it. Right? That's what I'm working with.
working with.
Right. And that's one of the reasons I decided to write a little science book about music. That's how it started. I just wanted
Okay.
people to understand what it was that JD did. And we could talk about that in a little bit. But the point is, it started small, but then people started talking. They started sharing their stories. As a journalist, you gain people's trust. And I had a relationship with Maureen. Maureen shared her story. And then other people started talking. And I also had the benefit of having been in the business, having many of JD's friends from Los Angeles were my friends.
Mm-hmm.
And then I married into a Michigan family. I married into a Detroit family about 9 years after I worked with JD. So then Detroit became sort of familiar ground to
Right.
me. And I got to meet his aunties and uncles and, beautiful people, and got to understand how Detroit has produced all of this incredible music over the decades and how it produced him. You know, I'd say Dilla remade rhythm, but Detroit made Dilla.
Detroit made
And
Dilla.
so both of those stories
Mm-hmm.
are in this book. But thank you for asking that question, because yeah, I think if I had thought this was going to be as big as it was, I wouldn't. I would like,
Stuff
Dan,
together.
go make another TV show. Go make
Yeah.
another Breaks.
Yeah.
Y'all
So
can make the
easier
breaks.
money.
Easier, right?
You talk with Maureen, so you touch base with the family about this.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think it would have been much of a biography had the family not been open. And it's to their credit that they were open. And what I tried to do is honor their stories. I'm a journalist, everything I do has to be independent. And there are reasons for that. One of the reasons is I interviewed 200 people for this book, Sway.
Mhm.
And a lot of those people, even people in the family, don't always see the facts the same way. And
Yeah.
so I have to be in a position of neutrality, but I think that they know I'm not a mercenary. Like
Hmm.
this is not a bootleg. This is not an infringement on anybody's intellectual property. It's really a way, and I really mean this. It's about elevating James Yancey.
Yeah.
It's about putting his name up with Louis Armstrong and James Brown and Billie Holiday and Monk and all those folks, and telling you why.
You said j.dilla. We're talking about j.dilla, and we have Dan Charnas is with us. Citizens, the phone lines have lit up. By the way, there's so many people that want to talk about Dilla. The new book is Dilla Time: The Life and Afterlife of J. Dilla, the hip hop producer who reinvented rhythm. And you said Detroit invented him. And what I find interesting about J. Dilla is a lot of folks would probably categorize him as, a kind of bohemian type guy, right? What I mean,
Mhm.
with your
Yeah.
soulless type of approach to music, but he from Detroit. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like a lot of folks will look at me, say, "Oh, Sway, real, a certain way, put me in a category." But I was raised in Oakland. Curious
Oh,
too, people may have that perception of Jay Dilla, but through your experience, how do you think he saw himself? I mean, did he carry a gun? Was he street savvy? You know what I mean? How did he see himself?
well, if you talk to his friends in Detroit, they'll tell you that James wasn't the most street savvy, but he did, like many young men, feel like he needed some protection from time to time. And
Mm-hmm.
he was also, like many young men of color, harassed by the police all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So Detroit produces lots of different kinds of personalities, and James was everything. Like he loved the strip club, he loved chains, and he loved fresh clothes, and he loved great cars and rims and stuff like that. And that's natural because that's a lot of the culture he grew up in. But he was also a thinker. He was also a great artist. He also appreciated jazz. He appreciated design. Like he was everything. And so I hope that people, when people read this book, they'll see that he was a multi-dimensional person, very interesting person, and had to struggle a lot because James, a lot of people don't know, especially from listening to him rhyme. We don't talk about how great an MC he was,
Mm-hmm.
but he was a stutterer, right? So he didn't speak easily, and the words didn't always come easily to him. But his genius came out through his music.
Okay. Did you ever consider? Were you familiar with him at the time you was recording music with?
I mean, obviously, I was familiar with him, but I never got the opportunity to meet him, see him in a studio, work with him. Never, and it's so weird, like because people always say the hip hop community and the hip hop family, and to your point, going back to the story that you told, Sway, you may end up in Amsterdam or end up in some random before you actually meet someone. Like,
Yeah.
you could be in the game 9, 10 years or never had opportunity to meet somebody at all. It's so weird. Community, you think small, but a lot of artists don't have a chance to connect years later, years and years later. It's the strangest thing in the world. So I was blessed. I wasn't blessed to have the opportunity to meet him or even see him.